Welcome to the Confession Booth. This is a space where we talk about the things people don't usually say out loud, especially when it comes to sex, relationships, taboo, and shame. And today I want to start with something very simple, but very real, which is the topic of secrets. Now, before I go into that, I want to start with a clear disclaimer because this topic can be sensitive. Almost everyone on this planet has a secret for one reason or another. And it is not my intention here to judge anyone for what they choose to keep private, whether that's something they never share or something they eventually decide to disclose. Everyone has their reasons for holding something or for choosing when and how to reveal it. And I really want to emphasize that this podcast is not about convincing anyone to share their secrets. If it doesn't feel safe for you, you do not need to change that. There's absolutely no pressure here. This is not about convincing somebody to reveal their secrets. This space is about creating the possibility of safe expression for people who are ready or who feel that something in them wants to be witnessed in a different way, and they want a resulting release of shame, of anxiety. Because when something is shared in the right kind of environment, one that is safe, compassionate, and grounded, it can create a very real sense of relief. Shame can begin to soften. The pressure that's been held internally can start to release. And for some people, it can genuinely feel like coming out of a cage or releasing the shackles, or like something that's been constricting them has finally loosened. That's really the intention behind the Confessional Booth, to create a space where people can share safely and without judgment. And for some people, that may also mean sharing anonymously. So there may be times where voices are altered, names are changed, or identities are kept private, especially when something feels particularly vulnerable or difficult to reveal. Because for many people, certain secrets don't just feel uncomfortable, they feel unsafe and even dangerous. And that makes sense. So again, no judgment on the secret itself. No judgment on what it is or why you would choose to keep it until your death, or to find a safe place or a safe person or people or a safe, any kind of safe and non-judgmental environment for you to disclose it. So today we are talking about secrets. More specifically, what actually happens in the body and across different layers of who we are when we're holding something we haven't said. Today we're simply looking at what happens when we hold something in, not just psychologically, but physically, emotionally, mentally, and even energetically. Because most people tend to think of a secret as something that exists in the mind, almost like a thought you're choosing not to say out loud. But your body doesn't experience it that way. From a nervous system perspective, a secret is not neutral. It's usually something that feels unsafe to express, and it often carries some form of charge. That charge can be shame or fear, fear of rejection, fear of punishment, fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of being judged, exposed, misunderstood, teased, laughed at, or bullied. And when something feels unsafe to express, the body does something very intelligent. it contains it. But over time, that containment can shift into suppression or even repression. And these things have a cost. When we suppress something, we begin to activate parts of the nervous system that are associated with stress and protection. So this might look like sympathetic activation, or what we know as fight or flight, or in some cases, a dorsal vagal response, which can show up as freezing, shutting down, or numbness. And over time, this can translate into muscle tension, shallow breathing, increased stress hormones, emotional dysregulation, anxiety, and a general reduction in how safe we feel in our own body. So, if we break this down a little further, we can look at 4 layers of impact. The first is the physical body. When you're holding something in, your body often goes into what we could call microbracing, which is a kind of subtle ongoing tension. This might show up as a tight jaw, restricted breathing, tension in the pelvic floor, a sense of holding yourself back without even realizing it. Or you might feel it in your gut or in your solar plexus. And over time, that pattern can become so familiar that it just feels normal. For example, someone who feels shame around their sexual desires might unconsciously contract their abdomen or pelvis, limit their breath during intimacy, or have difficulty fully feeling pleasure. Not because anything is wrong, but because their body is trying to protect them from being exposed. The second layer is emotional. Secrets often carry emotions like shame, guilt, fear, grief, or anxiety. But when those emotions aren't expressed or processed, they don't go away. They tend to recycle internally. So, someone who has unresolved shame from a past experience might feel heightened anxiety in a new relationship, or struggle with trust, or have a sense of hiding even when nothing is actually wrong. The emotional system stays activated because the experience was never fully metabolized. The third layer is mental. This is where you start to see looping patterns, overthinking, replaying conversations, self-monitoring, and a kind of low-level hypervigilance. The mind is trying to manage risk. What if someone finds out? How do I keep this hidden? And that takes up cognitive bandwidth. It can be exhausting. You may notice you're less present, more guarded, or constantly editing yourself in real time. And in some cases, it can even move into paranoia. The fourth layer is energetic, or what some people might call spiritual. Even without using that language, most people can relate to the feeling of being split. Part of you is expressed, and part of you is hidden. And that split can feel like a disconnection from yourself, or a lack of authenticity, or difficulty experiencing intimacy, or a sense that you can't fully be seen or accepted. In more body-based terms, this is a loss of coherence. Your system isn't fully integrated. Now, what's important to understand here is that when a secret is shared in a safe, regulated environment, something begins to shift across all 4 of these layers. The body often exhales, softens, and releases tension, which is a sign that the parasympathetic nervous system is coming online, specifically the ventral vagal state that's associated with safety and connection. Emotionally, shame can begin to reduce. Other feelings like grief or fear may move through, And there's often a sense of relief or completion that was not available before. Mentally, the looping tends to quiet down or reduce. Clarity increases and self-judgment reduces or softens, which allows self-compassion and even self-love to come online, because the brain no longer has to manage the secret in the same way. Relationally, these can happen as a result because the brain no longer has to manage the secret in the same way, and it's no longer really a secret. And relationally or energetically, when you're witnessed without rejection, without judgment, when you're witnessed safely, with acceptance, with compassion, with presence, your system can begin to update. It starts to register that it's actually safe to be seen. And that changes how you show up. You may feel more relaxed, more open, more present. And this is where intimacy, where sex can actually deepen, where pleasure can actually deepen. But I do want to be very clear about something. Not all forms of sharing are healing. If something is expressed without consent or in an environment that isn't safe, or with someone who doesn't have the capacity to hold it, it can actually reinforce shame rather than release it. So pacing matters, context matters, and who you choose to share with matters. In some cases, anonymity matters. The goal here is not to dump everything all at once. It's to move toward safe, integrated expression in an authentic way. So if you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. Your body already knows how to process what you've been holding. It just needs the right conditions. Not force, not exposure, but safety. In the next episodes, we'll explore how to share safely, how shame forms, and how to begin releasing it in a way that actually supports your nervous system. And eventually, we'll open this space to real, anonymous confessions. Because when something is finally spoken in the right way, it doesn't just leave your mind, it leaves your body. And that's where real freedom begins. This is the Confessional Booth, where what's been hidden can find a voice. Thanks for being here.